Good day, Deep in Word family. Welcome to day 169 of our Bible study review. Today we're going through chapters 38 and 39 of the book of Ezekiel. Now, as we open up these chapters, I just want to preface by saying that this portion of Ezekiel, right from chapter 38 all the way to closing out the book, is the most highly contested part of the Bible. Much of the body of Messiah is not in agreement as to what these things mean. And so some believe that there is a double reference, that this will happen before the start of the millennial reign. And then we also see a prophecy in the back of the book concerning Gog. So we're going to read today's portion, and I'm just going to share the different perspectives of what the body believes these things mean. And we may not know for sure what these things mean until they actually unfold. With that being said, let's start reading from verse 1. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog in the land of Magog, the prince of Rush, Meshech, and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus says the Adon Yahweh, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rush. Now, Rush in Hebrew means like chief or head, all right? So he may serve as a guard or a head of Meshech and Tubal, all right? So it says, And I will turn you back and put hooks into your jaws, and I will bring you out, and all of your army, horses and horsemen, and all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with buckler and shield, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and put with them all of them with shield and helmet. I will do to Gomer and all of its troops, of the north quarters and all of its troops, and many peoples with you. Be prepared and prepare yourself, you and all of your companies that are assembled with you, and be a guard to them. After many days you shall be called. In the latter years you shall come into the land that is restored from the sword, whose inhabitants have been gathered out of the Gentiles, or many nations, against the mountains of Israel, which have been a waste. But its people were brought out of the nations, and they, all of them, are dwelling safely. Now, this is the reason, I guess you can say, point of contention, because the inhabitants of Jerusalem and all of the promised land are not dwelling in 100% security. Now, there are pockets of security, right? And there are pockets of times where there's peace, but there isn't peace on all sides. Now, this is a prophecy of Yahweh against Gog, and this is to accomplish the will of Yahweh, right? He says he himself will put the hook in his mouth, and he himself will make him come against his land, Israel. All right, so that could mean that it may happen before the millennial reign, but it certainly is prophesied in the back of the book in Revelation chapter 20 that there's a battle of Gog and Magog. So are these things related? Possibly. Are they separate? Possibly. Are they the same thing? Many contest that they are, and many contest that they are not. So I am going to leave articles in the description box below, right, just to kind of help you get through these things. And again, we may not know until they actually happen. Let's keep reading. It says right here in verse 9, You shall ascend and come like a storm, and you shall come like a cloud to cover the land, you and all of your troops and all of your peoples with you. So Yahweh is speaking to Gog, whoever this chief leader is, and he's saying, you shall come with your many peoples. You shall come against my land. So this is the will of Yahweh, the Father, all right? Let's keep reading. Verse 10, it says, Thus says the Adon Yahweh, It shall come to pass on that day that things shall come into your mind, and you shall think an evil thought. And you shall say, I will go up against the land of unwalled villages. I will go against those who are at rest and dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, having neither bars nor gates, to take spoil and to seize prey, to turn your hand against the desolate places that are now inhabited, and against the people who are gathered out of the nations, who have obtained livestock and goods, who dwell in the midst of the world. And so it is saying that at this point in time, right, Israel, the land, the mountains, they used to be a desolation, but now they have been restored, and the land is full of livestock, resources, right? Resources that this chief Gog may want for himself, right? And that may be something that he promises to the other nations who come up with him. Verse 13. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish with all of its villages shall say to you, have you come to take the spoil? Have you gathered your company to seize prey, to carry away silver and gold, and to take away livestock and goods, and to take great spoil? So it says that the, surrounding nations are going to ask this great chief with all of those who are surrounding them, like, are you coming to take away all of the goods of the land of Israel, right? Are you coming to take away the great spoil, the great riches of the land? So let's keep reading. Verse 14. Therefore, son of man, prophesy and say to Gog, thus says the Adon Yahuwah, on that day when my people of Israel dwell safely, shall you not know it? And you shall come from your place out of the north parts, and you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great company and a mighty army. And you shall come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall come about in the latter days that I will bring you against my land, so that the nations may know me when I shall be sanctified in you, O Gog, before their eyes. And now we start walking into the portion of judgment against this chief leader, right? This rush leader who is Gog, whoever Gog may be. So let's start reading from verse 17. It says, thus says the Adon Yahuwah, are you he of whom I have spoken in the former days by my servants the prophets of Israel, who prophesied in those days for many years that I would bring you against them? And most people don't know where this comes from. Now, recently it has been discovered, the Aramaic translation of the Tanakh, of the Hebrew scriptures, that there's a portion that has been removed. Now, I have discovered this from the channel Parable of the Vineyard, and so I will share the video that he disclosed this portion of scripture that was removed from the book of Numbers 11. I'm going to tag the video, and I'm also going to tag the article so that you can connect what this is saying concerning the prophets who prophesied about this Gog, all right? So make sure you check that out in the description box below. Let's keep reading. In verse 18 it says, and it shall come to pass at the same time when Gog comes against the land of Israel, says the Adon Yahuwah, that my fury shall come up in my anger. For my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. Surely in the day that there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel, the fish of the sea and the fowl of the heavens and the beast of the field and all of the creeping things that creep upon the earth and all of the men who are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down and the steep places shall fall and every wall shall fall to the ground. I will call for a sword against him on all of the mountains, says the Adon Yahuwah. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. I will enter into judgment with him with pestilence and with blood. And I will rain upon him and upon his troops and upon the many peoples who are with him an overflowing rain of hailstones, fire, and brimstone. Thus I will magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations. Then they shall know that I am Yahuwah. Now this does sound so close to the battle of Gog and Magog in the back of the book with Revelation chapter 20. So I'm going to read it. Let's read Revelation chapter 20, verse 7. And just to let you know, the time period of this, it's when the 1,000-year millennial reign, where we're ruling and reigning with our Messiah, is done. All right? Well, it's coming to a close, but let's start reading from verse 7. It says, when the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be set free from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle. Their number is like the sand of the sea. They traveled the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp against the saints and the beloved city, which is Jerusalem. And it says, but fire came down from Elohim out of heaven and devoured them. That does sound very close to what's going on in Ezekiel chapter 38. But let's just keep reading and try to piece these things together. All right, so let's start from verse 1. It says, moreover, you, son of man, prophesy against Gog and say, thus says the Adon Yahuwah, I am against you, O Gog, prince of Rush, Meshech, in Tubal, and I will turn you back, drive you on, and take you up to the north parts, and bring you against the mountains of Israel. And I will strike your bow out of your left hand, and cause your arrows to fall out of your right hand. And you shall fall upon the mountains of Israel, you and all of your troops, and all of the peoples who are with you. And I will give you to the ravenous birds of every sort, and to the beasts of the field to be devoured. You shall fall upon the open field, for I have spoken, says the Adon Yahuwah, and I will send fire on Magog, and among all those who dwell safely in the coastlands. Then they shall know that I am Yahuwah. Now I'm going to take you to another part in Scripture in the back of the book that looks oddly familiar to this. It's Revelation chapter 19, verses 17 through 18. Let's read. It says, "And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice to all of the birds flying in the midst of heaven, come and gather for the supper of the great Elohim, to eat the flesh of kings, the flesh of commanders, and the flesh of strong men, and the flesh of horses and their riders, and the flesh of all men, both free and slave, both small and great." It looks oddly familiar, right? Is it the same thing? I don't know. Let's keep reading. Verse 7, back in Ezekiel chapter 39, it says, "So I will make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore. And the nations shall know that I am Yahuwah, the Holy One of Israel. It is coming, and it shall be done, says the Adon Yahuwah. This is the day of which I have spoken." Now again, this may go back to Numbers chapter 11 and the Aramaic translation of the Tanakh. Please make sure you check out the article and the recommended video down in the description box below. Maybe it will help us make sense of these things. Let's keep reading. Verse 9. "Those who dwell in the cities of Israel shall go and make fires with the weapons and burn them, both the shields and the bucklers and the bows and the arrows and the war clubs and the spears, and they shall burn them with fire for 7 years. They shall take no wood out of the field or cut down any of the forest, for they shall make fires with the weapons." So the weapons from the army of Gog, right? All of their weapons will be put ablaze in a fire, a huge fire, all right? So it says, "And they shall despoil those who despoiled them." I'm just saying that sounds like the very end, when everything that the enemy stole, right, that our Messiah will make sure it's given back to us. But then again, I don't know. I'm not sure if this is the same thing or if it is a separate ordeal. But let's just keep reading. It says, "And plunder those who plundered them, says the Adon Yahuwah." Verse 11, "It shall come to pass in that day that I will give to Gog a place of graves there in Israel, the valley of passengers on the east of the sea, and it shall stop the passengers. And there they shall bury Gog and all of the multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Haman Gog. For 7 months the house of Israel shall be burying them, so that they may cleanse the land." So beforehand, it says that their weapons are going to be set up in fire for 7 years. But then the bodies, it says that they will be buried for 7 months by the people of Israel. And it says, "Indeed, all of the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be their renown in the day that I shall be glorified, says the Adon Yahuwah." So will he be glorified on this side or on the other side during the millennial reign? All I know is it says that the weapons that come from Gog and his army, those will be on fire for 7 years. And there'll be so many bodies to bury that it will take 7 months, right? And later on, we will see that this is to cleanse the land of Israel, right? To cleanse it. Then it says at the end of those 7 months of burying the bones, it says that the men who pass by, if one sees a bone sticking out, right, that he has to take that bone and he has to bury it, because all of the land must be cleansed. Every last bone has to be buried. Let's keep reading. Verse 17, "As for you, son of man, thus says the Adon Yahuwah, speak to every kind of fowl and every beast of the field, assemble and come. Gather on every side to my sacrifice that I sacrifice for you, even the great sacrifice upon the mountains of Israel, that you may eat flesh and drink blood." Right? So Yahuwah is calling all of the animals to come and discard of these bodies from the army of Gog. Does that not sound like the same thing taking place in Revelation chapter 19, verses 17 and 18? But is it the same thing? I don't know if we will know until it happens. Verse 18, you shall eat the flesh of the mighty and drink the blood of the officials of the earth, as though of rams, of lambs, goats, bulls, and of them the fatlings of Bashan. You shall eat fat until you are full, and drink blood until you are drunk from my sacrifice, which I have sacrificed for you. So Yahweh is telling the animals that I made this great sacrifice for you. And all of the animals, right? The vultures, he says, you shall eat until you are full from Gog, right? He says, I will cleanse them from my land. Verse 21, I will set my glory among the nations, and the nations shall see my judgment that I have executed. He says all of the world will know what just happened. All of the world will see, right, this great sacrifice upon the mountains of Israel, which is Gog and all who followed him. All right, and it says, my hand that I have laid upon them. He says they will see it and they will know that it is done by Yahweh. It says right here in verse 22, so the house of Israel shall know that I am Yahweh, their Elohim, from that day and forward. The nation shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity, because they trespassed against me, and I hid my face from them, and I gave them into the hand of their enemies, and all of them fell by the sword, according to their uncleanliness and according to their transgressions I have done to them, and hid my face from them. And chapter 39 closes out with a promise to restore Israel, right? The people. And so we know the land is being cleansed of an enemy, and now it's talking about this fortune of Israel being restored. It says, therefore, thus says the Adon Yahweh, now I will restore the fortunes of Jacob and have mercy on the whole house of Israel, and will be jealous for my holy name, right? So the whole house of Israel is not in the land right now. The whole house of Israel will not be in the land until Messiah gathers the whole house of Israel. And these are the parts of Ezekiel that make the body of Messiah contest these parts of Scripture as to whether this is going to happen before or after, or whether it's going to happen two times, before and after. All right, but let's just keep reading. It says, they shall forget their shame and all of their trespasses by which they have trespassed against me, when they lived safely in their land and no one made them afraid. This is not happening yet, because they don't have peace on all sides as of yet. All right. And so it says, when I have brought them back from the peoples and gathered them out of the lands of their enemies, then I shall be sanctified in them in the sight of many nations. Then they shall know that I am Yahweh, their Elohim, who caused them to be led into captivity among the nations, and then gathered them again to their own land, and have left none of them there any more, nor will I hide my face from them any more, for I will have poured out my spirit on the house of Israel, says the Adon Yahuwah. Now, I don't believe this has happened yet, because the whole house of Israel is not in the land, is not in Jerusalem, is not in the fullness of the promised land. All of Israel is not there yet, right? And the shame of all of Israel has not been taken away yet. And so some contest that this is a prophecy that happens before the millennial reign, but it certainly does happen after the millennial reign, because we see Gog and Magog in chapter 20 of Revelation. Feel free to add commentary in the comments down below. Have you ever read these chapters in Ezekiel? Is this still challenging you, or do you feel like you have a grasp on what all of this means? Please feel free to share in the comments down below, but please keep it respectable and keep peace among the brethren. That is all that I ask of you. Deep in Word family, that's all that I have for you today. Until tomorrow, Yah bless.